Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? Now that first paragraph really dates this book. Again, it was written in 1913, way before the internet, way before smartphones, way before computers. And so, but the same concepts apply. The chances of you starting an e-commerce business as big as Amazon, pretty slim to none. You creating a chain of retailers that can compete with Walmart, probably pretty slim to none. And that's what it's saying. It's saying although these giants have stepped in, there is plenty of opportunity. It is quite true that if you are a workman employed by an oil trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the oil trust. You can buy a farm and engage in business as the producer of food. There is a great opportunity at this time for people to live on small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such people will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in the certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and at the current stage of social evolution which has been reached. There are more opportunities today than ever before. We are more connected on this planet than ever before. Therefore, there is more opportunity to provide value to others and be handsomely rewarded than ever before. There is an abundance of opportunity for the people who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So, you are not deprived of opportunity. You are not being kept down by your boss, your job, where you live, or any other condition in your outside world. As a class, you and others are where you are because you do not do things in a certain way. There are more millionaires and billionaires than ever before, and that number is only going to get greater. The world is changing faster than ever before. Everything is only getting better and better, and as more and more people learn to get rich by doing what this book teaches them, the change will become even faster. You are not kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol in Washington, D.C. might be built for every family on earth from the building material in the United States alone. and under intensive cultivation, this country would produce wool, cotton, linen, and silk enough to clothe each person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance or source, out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of source or original substance. The universe was made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with original substance. With the raw material of all things, 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made, and even then, we should not have exhausted the supply of source. You are not, therefore, poor because there is not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Source is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building materials is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, more will be produced from source. Source responds to the needs of man. It will not let him be without any good thing. This is true of humanity collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual rich. Source is intelligence. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled toward more life, growth, progression, development, and abundance. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to expand itself and of consciousness to seek to extend its boundaries to find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by Source, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict itself and nullify its own words.